Good afternoon. Welcome everybody to another edition, third one of the 18 season here in the Scl Weekly. Got your guest hosts, Carlin Hicks and Colio 123. Let's go around the room here. Johnny Benson, myself here, hosting the show tonight. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me a little better. And we got some of our audio technical difficulties sorted out here. Go ahead, Carlin. Say hello to the audience real quick.
Hello, racers.
Hello. What's going on, Colio?
Not much. Race freaks.
Race break. All right. Well, we're going to get started off right away. We got an action-packed show here, wrapping up our speed weeks. We had awesome speed weeks here, and we'll go right into talking about what happened in our Daytona 500. That was our biggest race. We'll go ahead and talk about how that worked out there. I don't really have a whole lot to say myself. My car blew up on lap 40 or so overheating trouble. What did you guys see in that event? It was a great event. I watched the rest of it.
Well, I'll tell you right now, that one's going to go down. That's the seventh 500 we've run. And I think besides the very first one when Vic made that mad charge from 12th to 1st on the last 4 laps, that's got to be one of the most memorable ones that there's been because it came down to a pit strategy at the end. That was the first time I think I've seen someone win a race like that since I won the Brickyard a few seasons ago, doing that same thing. And Colio took the win, was rolling right behind him. Milwaukee was in third. Mortal Gooch was the top of the guys who pitted. I believe Colio, Roland, and Milwaukee, the top 3, all stayed out for that last about 75-mile run. And I think Gearhead, who ran out of fuel and wound up finishing in 11th, I believe they were the 4 that made a run for it. And you want to go ahead and tell us how that was your second straight Daytona 500 win for Colio, the first 2-time winner. Tell us about it, man.
Well, it was absolutely an enjoyable race all throughout in general. There was a few cautions here and there, but nothing that was anything deliberately or obviously caused on purpose or nothing like that. And it wasn't really even driver error, just something, I got in the wall and then the guy behind it wasn't able to check up in time. Just silly things like that filled out for most of the cautions, even though there wasn't that many. But Roland, I got to give huge props to him. He decided to take the charge with about 75 miles left. I believe it was a 30-lap run we had to do on one whole stint. And the top 4 guys top 3 guys ended up on that strategy with Colio, Roland, and Awoki. Gearhead, as you mentioned earlier, did try that. However, he didn't have enough fuel in the car, and his car was slip sliding away near the end of the run. Ended up running out of gas, got out of the way of the racers behind him, didn't cause a scene or anything. Good job to him for keeping it clean and everything. And yeah, it was absolutely not easy. I believe we were going approximately 140 around the corners the last 3 or 4 laps. So it was definitely a challenge, and I'm glad that others took the challenge with me.
Well, one of those that was taking the challenge with you was a rookie, Vindictive. He was having a good race. I was riding along with him the last couple of laps there. And the last 30 laps in, I think he led most of it up to about 5 to go there when he ran out of tires. I could tell
right.
that all of you were running out of tires there, and it got the best of him there with about 5 to go coming off of turn 4. He spun it and looped it. But up to that, he was in a pretty good spot. But, he's a rookie. He didn't realize that he was running out of tires. And you guys were just sitting back there waiting.
Yeah, we were waiting for sure. We were watching him, and then coming out of turn 4, we were watching him a lot more, and he just kind of went right on down to the inside wall. Thankfully, he didn't spin into the track or anything, and luckily for him, he spun right near to pit road.
Yeah, he's got good car control.
I know in my own experience, when I pulled that move at the season 15 Brickyard 400 and cut a pit stop, I know that it took my earlier 3 seasons of experience to be able to pull that off, to know that it would work, to know how to make it work. And I think Vin, with more experience, would have stayed, with you front four, and it would have, probably. But at that point, he was probably following the leaders, doing the smart thing, but didn't have enough experience to know what was going to happen if he ran his normal pace.
Yeah, it's his first 500, so.
Yeah, props to him for giving it a shot.
No, he had a very good race though in the 500. Taking
absolutely.
Nothing away from him. He ran
Especially
up front a good portion of the way. Yeah, he did really well.
Yeah, he definitely did a very good job. Roland did a good job, like you said. A couple of guys I thought Kip wasn't taking the chance. He pulled off with about 4 to go there. What was his strategy, Cole?
His strategy was, if I spin out, those guys are going to beat me. If I pit, well, I'll have a chance at fighting them. So that was his idea, and that's the way he went for it.
That's the same thing I thought. I was thinking the same thing you were thinking there at the end, Cole, but I just thought, something about it told me there was going to be a difference between Daytona and Indianapolis, because Indianapolis or Motegi, you have the advantage of the guys have to let off each other in the corners. They can't push all the way around to make up time on you. Daytona, I thought we would have enough time to catch you, and we would have with about 3 or 4 more laps, but you guys made the right call.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was fun watching it at the end there. I love it when it goes, that last little stretch there was caution free, and everybody had a good fuel run. They ran it out there, and I think everybody was really paying attention to what was going on, and then they were doing exactly what they had to do there to either make it to the end or make it to their fuel run, or however they had to do it there. But the guys that did stay out, they knew they had a handful, except for the guys that didn't know they had a handful. Like, Vinny probably didn't know he was getting into that situation that he was getting into. So yeah, that was an awesome race. We'll go ahead and talk about the US 400 on Friday night. I know Carl and Carlin, you were in that one. I wasn't there for that one, so you guys want to go ahead and do a little recap of that event?
Yeah, the US 400, I mean, it's a major event in its own right. And IndyCar Series has really taken off. We're getting a lot more guys into Class 1 that are running it now. And we had a good-sized field, 11-car field for the race. I believe Kip took another pole, as he often does. He ran a spectacular qualifying run, had DeCamber on the front row with him. And during the race, it was a very clean race for the most part. It is a Class 1 race. The Indy cars are not easy to handle in the dirty air, but for the most part, we had a clean run and some, if not green flag pit stops, we would get close to the green flag pit stops before the dirty tires, got people out. But the big story of the race really was J-Dog getting his very first SCL career win in the US 400. So, congratulations to him.
Yeah, such an accomplishment, especially to win such a major race as your first race win.
Oh, yeah.
Also, yeah, I mean, how many IndyCar races has he been in? Is this his first?
No, he ran some at the tail end of last season.
Okay.
It can't be more than 4 or 5 starts. I know he probably he has plenty of experience. He's practiced them a lot, no doubt. And the field he beat to the line. Colio in second, Kips in third, DeCamber fourth, and DW McFreak finishing fifth. That was one of those races where down at the end of the race, it was one of those interesting things at Daytona that I often talk about. You had a bottom line of about 3. You had a top line that turned into 6 or 7. I know as a driver, I always say, if I'm at the back of that 6 or 7 line, the best I'm going to do if we get through is I'm going to still be in 6th or 7th. Now I'm just now we're just in front of those last 3. But I would have liked to have seen it split off, but other than that, it was really a great finish. I mean, it was pretty much clean, and I know you were trying to take J-Dog down at the end, Cole, and couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, I was doing my best, and I think if we had maybe a lap or two, maybe 3 more laps, we would have been able to get him. We really had to watch our backs, especially with Freak, yourself, Super 8, and a couple other guys. They were ready to chomp, so we really had to stay tucked in line and kind of use J-Dog just to ensure our second, third, and fourth place.
Yeah, I thought the story of the race for a long time was the way that myself, Carlin Hicks, and J-Dog, we kept doing really well up front, and even separated a gap until that last caution. Now, it's an Indy car, the field can run you down, but there were so many guys racing at that point with you guys that I could tell you were having trouble getting lined up to eat up the second and a half or whatever it was to us. And without that caution, it would have been interesting. I think if the back of the field had started to fall out, you guys would have got together and ran us down, but we'll never know because we had the caution.
Right.
Yes, that was definitely awesome racing there in the open wheel. Let's go ahead and talk about Wednesday night Camel GT race. That was really fun there with the Camel GTs. You want to go ahead and talk about that a little bit, Carlin? I mean, everybody had fun there.
Yeah, the Daytona Continental. Let me go ahead and pull up my standings here for the Camel GT. I know that Awoki won his second straight Daytona Continental. That's really the major race of the Camel GT series. That's actually, considering the sweep last season, that's his 9th straight win in the Camel GT series. But it wasn't a non-competitive race. Rookie WCC Baseball ran with him neck and neck for probably the first 40 minutes or so. And he's a road course ringer, is WCC Baseball, and he came in and really put on a show. He had a pit stop, spin coming out of the pits on that real difficult pit row later on. And I think that cost him time. I managed to come home in third by, I cut a pit stop. I ran a long strategy and held off Gooch. Gooch was fourth, and then Super 8 came in a solid fifth. We had good attendance for the race. There were, 14, 15 qualifiers, I believe. After we got through technical inspection, there were 11 starters. Max Payne was a rookie who had engine trouble and blew up, finished 9th. He had a good showing. He did have a little bit of over-aggression at times. I know he put a move on me in the little S's next to the exit pit row that I wasn't too happy with at the time. But that was his first race, so it's always a learning curve. But this championship is just going to be, us chasing Andy, as long as he shows up. But it really is a competitive race back in the field, and is gaining in popularity.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. I know I was kind of, I wanted to race because I know that road course racing is kind of out of my element. So I definitely did that, came out and tried to stay out of everybody's way. It was a lot of learning. I really like those, Chevy Corvettes. They really put on a good show there, especially the end of the lights of Daytona. But, it's hard to stop Andy, hard to stop a train, like they said. Max Payne gave it a shot at the beginning of the race, and Baseball gave it a good 7th inning swing there at the end of the race. But Andy, again, what can we say? He just tore it up.
Oh yeah, I mean the thing about those races is, and the testimony to it is the fact that I do fairly well in that series, and I don't have the pace on the road courses that these big guys do. But it really is, you got to be consistent. I mean, you can run a half a second faster than somebody, but one off and you're losing 15 seconds, and it'll take you 30 seconds to catch up. Even if you're a second faster, it'll take you 12, 15 laps to catch up. And that's how I get decent finishes when I do well, when I don't throw up an egg myself at a Camel GT race, is just staying on the track and running a decent, quick pace, a top half of the field pace without making a mistake. And I think that when, the guys that do that do well in that series. And when you combine the two and you go fast and you stay on the track like Andy does, it's very hard to catch him.
Definitely, yeah. He doesn't even have a lot of time to practice lately, but it's not really mattering because him not practicing. I mean, you imagine if he had practiced a lot for that race, he'd have lapped everybody. And WC Fields wouldn't have been nowhere near him, but at least he's given us chances.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is, with the deal with Andy. Andy's, you can't let him get out in front and get away. He is, you can race with him, if you can keep him around you.
But you have to do that.
But you have to do that. You have to block him. You have to race, as hard as you can. Especially on the oval, you can hang with him because of that. But when you get on the road course, once he gets out in front, he's going to be gone. And WCC hung with him for a real long time. And, probably Andy had a slip-up or two that kept it real close. But It was a great race.
Well, WCC, he's a rookie. He did a really good job in that race. Let's talk about another race he was in on the oval, like we were saying, the RC Cola 250 Saturday night. That was an awesome race there at Daytona. Looks like Carlin was in that one. Winner was rolling and with a cat guy, so two regulators up front with the Benson speed equipment pushing him. How'd that all shake out there at Daytona, Carlin?
Well, it was we had a big field, obviously. The guys were well behaved for the most part. They had some trouble with the tire compound. I like racing that compound. It was above the heads of some of a few of the guys, at least early. It got better as the race went on. I did throw a competition restart at one point, and that really did work. It sent a shock through the field because they saw what happened when they came out and were like, all right, when we ran clean for 20 laps and it had another caution, didn't happen again. Roland and Cat Guy got the win, regulator going 1-2, another win for Roland. He's racking them up. Gearhead on the podium, Gearhead. We'll talk about him a little more later when we get the late model, but, he did another great performance. Remy was fourth, and the rookie Twindy managed to come home in fifth. But, the real story of that race was the wrecks at the end. It came down much like it did in the IndyCar in the US 400 the night before. I was leading the bottom line. Myself and J-Dog once again had hooked up and ran 1-2 for the vast majority of the race. And then we were down on the bottom, and I got spun behind me. Someone got into my quarter panel, and that caused the big one in this race. And so, just like a lot of Daytona races, what you're looking at here on the standings is you're looking at the guys who got through it, and they get all the credit in the world. The outside line had a good run going, and like you said, regulator goes 1-2. They made a statement that they're out here to compete. Gearhead, no surprise. And besides that, we had a pretty good race. A few blow-ups at the end, but for a 15-car field, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, Daytona always puts on a good show, but it's kind of a crapshoot on whether everybody's going to cooperate or not, whether you're going to have a good race or not. Obviously, like the Daytona 500 and your IndyCar, Indy 400 or US 400, you guys had some really good racing because those are all elite Class 1 drivers in here. Obviously, you're going to have, some newbies, the guys that learn in the Grand National race along with the Class 1 drivers love to race too. So you're going to have more of those.
In this race.
There
were eight rookies out of the
exactly. So you're going to have a lot more of that kind of rookie mistakes because just they don't really understand what's happening quite yet.
Well, the most difficult thing, really, to be honest, with the tires was the restart. I started having them roll the restarts quicker coming down the line because guys were spinning their tires, and it really took. I mean, we always tell guys in every series that, it takes a couple of laps for the tire temperature to come up to where you can really start dicing. Only the real elite drivers, the real veterans can try to make moves on cold tires. And even then, they're taking a chance. But with these cars, you really had to wait 3 or 4 laps to make a move. And that was the hardest part for the guys. It was their cautions were causing caution. Once we got going and we got a little bit of separation in the field, everybody, I mean, I can't sit here and say that, you know, somebody was a problem. You think somebody was a problem. The true sheep here thinks someone was a problem, but I didn't think anybody was a problem so much. Digby did get a black flag at the end of the race after he had spun on his own a few too many times. But besides that, I mean, I don't have any complaints about any individual drivers. I mean, even the guy who took me out, you know, I'm not complaining directly about it.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a pretty good race there. I think the Winston West race went pretty well. Remy did his solid there and hosted that event. So there wasn't any officials present for that event, so it's not going to count towards anybody's Class 1 license. But it sounded like it was a good event. Apparently at the end there you had J-Dog and Twindy and Scrappy all racing for the win coming off turn 4, I believe, from what I hear. Scrappy was up high, making it 3 wide, and J-Dog was in the middle of Twindy down low. And Scrappy and J-Dog ended up getting together up high, and Twindy came out with a win. So that's awesome for Twindy, picking up his first win. That's always a great morale boost. It's not a points event or anything, so it's not going to count towards its winner circle eligibility or any of that. But, you know, it's always good to get a win. Win's a win, especially racing with all the top guys out there at Daytona. But those are 3 good rookies that were all racing forward at the end there.
Oh, yeah, after taking his penalty, his Class 1 probationary penalty, he came out. He came into a practice room with me that day while I was preparing for the GND race, and, you know, I told him, I said, I know in your head you're saying, you know, what you want to say to yourself is, I'm going to go out and win these damn races and show them I belong. I said, just run smooth and stay out of trouble. And sure enough, that's what, apparently I wasn't there, but that's apparently what got him the win in the Winston West race, was just hanging out there when the trouble started and getting through it. So, you know, more power to him.
Yep. And then I guess Tuesday night you guys had a fun race in the Indy Lights. Cole, you want to talk about the Indy Lights race that you guys had going on?
California 40.
Indy Lights and the California 40. We were talking about Max Payne earlier, blowing up in Camel GT, Daytona Continental. That was after this California 40, but let me tell you, Max Payne put on a great show for the California 40. Colio, myself, did end up qualifying on pole. It was not by much. Max Payne and Colio had a fairly decent battle for the first few laps, and Colio pushed it a little too hard and hit the rumble strip a little too awkward and kind of sent him around. But it wasn't the only time, and it wasn't the only time the lead changed either. Max Payne ended up doing similar situation, I believe, and then I believe he also drove off into the sand trap at Mazda Laguna Seca. And he did end up rallying back, coming back for the win. Kip Solanass ended up getting second. He decided to take it easy and play it safe rather than go straight for the first place. And second place in points, he's higher up than just about anybody else. So paid off for him.
Oh yeah, it was a good race. I know that Kip stayed steady. Super 8 was very good to get in the 4th, and credit to Norm with a top 5. That was one of those spinning wins. Max overcooked it coming out of turn 1 and caused probably 2 or 3 of us to spin their cars out or go off track. But he righted it, and we didn't get a caution to reset. So it's kind of like Danny Sullivan at Indy 500 situation. He spun it, came back, took off, and you and him had a great battle, like you said. But you know, I think what happens with you, Cole, is kind of what happens with me when you're running. We spend our time that we do have for preparation on the major events, the Class 1 races, and we don't get as many laps of practice in for the lower series as we like, and then you get into a racetrack like Laguna Seca and you make a few too little mistakes that you wouldn't normally make.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's really what happened. I mean, I just cut it a little too sharp, going a little too fast, and around it went.
Well, the rookies really look good, though, at Laguna Seca with Max Payne winning there. Talked to a couple of the rookies, like FF Racer. He sounds like a pretty good guy. So everybody had good out there on the West Coast. Good time out there in the California 40. But then Thursday night, we rolled back to Daytona for the late model Permatex 100. That was, another awesome event there at Daytona. Um, I don't know. What do you guys think about the race? It was fun.
With a similar setup as the Grand National cars, we know they run the same tire compound, but the Grand National has 100 extra horsepower. But really, they both handle real similar and produce pretty similar just overall feeling. However, the Grand Nationals can get a little more slick upon throttle. But the thing is that the late models really just teach the ground basis of how these cars are going to handle when these guys go up to Grand National. It really helps them that they know kind of how the car's going to feel. The race was really good for the most part. I believe we had one caution in the very beginning, the very first segment, but it wasn't necessarily called in time to be considered a caution in the first segment, so we ran it out to the last lap because it happened pretty much on the last lap. Twenty, big subject of that race. He had an excellent first half, and maybe that just kind of got to him, and he got a little overconfident. He made a couple rookie mistakes and kind of pushing it 3 wide, which caused him to cause a couple wrecks in the latter half. He did end up going on probationary, class 1, or probationary down to class 2 and lower license now. But I think he's learned his lesson on that.
Yeah, I mean, that was Thursday that happened. And since he had the big issue, which was in the last 5 laps of the event, we had to go ahead and penalize and take him out of the U.S. 400 and Daytona 500 for that rest of Speed Week there, just because those are big races, and we didn't need another huge, big one like that happening because of a rookie mistake like that. So him already being on probation, we had to set him out for a couple of weeks. We told him to go ahead and run all these non-point Class 1 races for sure, but the points paying one, he's going to have to sit out for a while until we can see he's definitely worthy. I mean, Daytona's hard, especially on a controller. We hate to have him to do it, but we had to there. After he did cause that big one in that last 5-lap segment there where we were all green, it was a straight-out shootout there. It was another awesome race with Gearhead, DeCamber, and Carlin. They were down low, racing as hard as they could there, and me and J-Dog kind of all by ourselves back there trying to make something happen on the outside. 2 of us couldn't really do anything, and the 3 of them stayed pretty good down low. You want to tell them what it was like kind of pushing Gearhead up through there on the last 5 laps of the late model race, Carlin?
Oh, yeah. Gearhead and me are, we were the same rookie class back in season 12. I have spent a lot of miles with him at Daytona, and to see him wind up there near the end of the race was no surprise. I know I had to work my way from the very back of the field, and had to get the wave around, I believe, at the intermission. And then I came through the field, and obviously with luck, as it always is at Daytona. And then when we got to the end, with Gearhead, when he's leading you, he's going to run a smooth line. All you got to do is stay on his bumper, and you're going to go there. I did make a move at the end, and DeCamber got me at the line, but really it was a great race. I mean, Gearhead is as I can remember, the only guy who in a major race won in his very first start in one of the long established series like late model. And
that's the fourth Permatex 100.
Yeah, that's the fourth time in 7 seasons he's won the late model race at Speed Weeks. I mean, he knows how to do it at Daytona, particularly in the late models. And another great race. And I think really the story of this race is the what we talked about on the last week and the week before show, the Daytona damage. This is only a 5-race points championship as we work through the created tracks this season, and a lot of heavy players took a hit in that race.
Yeah, it was tough, but the guys that made it through there, an awesome shot at the championship here. So, yeah, can't complain. Daytona. It is what it is. You're going to have rookies like that happening. So, that's the rookie series for a reason. That's why we have that kind of stuff going on. So, that was fun. For Daytona late model race. Our other Class 3 event was the kart race. Cole, you want to go ahead and talk about how that kart race went on Tuesday night in Eltonville?
The kart race went quite well, and we had a new rookie, as we've been talking about a lot of rookies. Instead of Max Payne, this one was ML Freights, and he did an exceptional job. He qualified just behind me in second. I got the pole for that. Very last lap, I ran off the track with ML Freights trailing me by about a second, and that kind of gave the win to him. But all in all, we battled throughout the whole race, and just the fact that I was a second ahead of him at that point in the race was a huge accomplishment. As he was on my tail, and I was on his tail multiple times throughout the race.
Yeah, I mean, those kart races are always fun. They're in the public club lobbies, and they're, that was at Laguna Seca, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool. Everybody had a good time, obviously. And again, another rookie came in and showed us what we didn't know, apparently. A lot of rookies in that race, too. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different rookies, Q normal, and your dad, and Vinny's got a couple races there, too. But the rest pretty much right up a rookie, and they did awesome again. So, yeah.
The kart series is a series that will bring in ringers, being the one that you can tune the car. You'll get guys who spend a lot of time kart racing that they'll do really well in that series, and we hope it draws them in.
Oh, yeah. That's what we want, just to draw more people in. It's a fun series to run in. We got a good race tonight in the cars. So that should be fun. Let's go ahead and talk about some upcoming events. We got, carts tonight at Greenville. You want to talk about that a little bit, Colio?
Carts at Greenville tonight. The carts are tuned series for those of you who may not know. Greenville is a 1.25-mile track with moderate to high banking in the corners, and it's probably going to be a wide open track, but don't let that fool you. It will take a lot of talent involved with knowing when to make a move, how to set your 5th and 6th gear up, and it's really not as simple as it sounds. We also have Indy lights just after the kart race, and those are non-tuned, 145 horsepower, and that will be a 40-lap race. I believe the cars will be close to wide open. As tires wear, I'm not sure how the cars are going to handle. I haven't done much testing with that, but definitely going to be an interesting race for our first time getting in Indy lights on a proper speedway for their size.
Indy lights are always awesome. They're going to be fun on an oval. One of these great ovals. We're going to see, obviously, how it goes. But again, that should be an awesome race there. You know, it's going to be fun. We're going to do what we can do here for the races. It should be fun with the Indy Lights at Greenville. I think that's an awesome track. But the kart race is going to be fun because those are tuned. I think people are going to have some really hot go-kart setups there. And it should be fun to see what kind of speeds you can get out of them. What kind of speeds you think in some preliminary tests? What have you gotten up to there at Greenville in the kart?
Well, I know that we've gotten up to about 120 miles an hour. I know it sounds like a lot, and it is for a shifter car.
That is a lot for a go-kart, yeah.
Yeah, especially 2 inches off the ground. You got to be freaking out. But yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to be seeing those karts upwards of 115 to 120 miles an hour.
So you're saying like 120 by itself? That's got to be drafted speed, right?
Yeah, drafting. By itself, it's probably going to be closer to about 110.
Yeah. Should be an awesome race, though. I know I'm going to enjoy it. As it's not on a road course. I love those tracks. Yeah, it's fun. We have a good time there on those tracks. You know, everybody has a good time. When we get to those graded tracks, obviously, like in the Indy Lights race, it's not going to be for points, but you're going to make a lot of coinage if you hang out and race in those races. Looks like we got some members already in here. HCC, Max Payne signed up for it. HWC Baseball, he's going to be, you know, tearing up the track probably. Rookie Twindy in there to get some more, him and Digby in there to get some more seat time. And J-Dog and me. We're going to have a good race. Not everybody is signed up for it yet that's going to be there. I think we're going to have a pretty packed track. You know, these creative tracks really seem to bring out the people to the race. So that should be fun. What else we got going on here? That's Tuesday. Wednesday we got our Camel GT cars at Indianapolis. That's going to be an awesome race. Carlin's got something to say about that.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be a great one. What we're looking forward to in that one is that we have a shot at stopping Andy's 9-race winning streak. We got a few of us guys who count Indy among our best and most favorite tracks. The story, though, is that nobody really knows what these cars are going to get. They're going to be set at 620 horsepower limiter. They're still going to be upwards of 190 miles an hour in the draft. They have a lot of aerodynamics, obviously, on the Corvette Z06s. So it's really tough to tell what you're going to see in the race. I'm not really sure about the strategy, how many laps you can go. So I think the guys who get prepared are going to be the ones who do the best. And it's a wild card on an oval track.
Yep, should be good. You know, everybody, all the oval ringers are definitely going to show up for a race like this. You know, you're not going to be there, are you, Cody? But what do you think about running those Corvettes on the oval there in Indianapolis?
Oh, that'll be a lot of fun, especially with just the car itself it's a well-rounded car for just about anywhere you take it. So it's definitely going to do its match for an oval.
Yep. And the fun oval, we're going to go ahead and go to another fun oval on Thursday. After that event, our LMS Bush Pulse qualifying is going to go up for our K&K 100 late model sportsman division event at Greenville. So we're going back to Greenville for that race. Obviously, that's going to go up Wednesday night about 6:20. You're going to be able to start qualifying for the event. And then Thursday night, we're going to have an awesome race. What do you think about stock cars on that Greenville track, Coley?
Yeah, I talked about the cars and Indy Lights there. Stock cars themselves are very fun there. I've raced them there with a small field, about 5 cars before, and definitely going to produce a lot of great racing and probably multi-wide action around the track. The high side can really get a dive into the corner and definitely get a run off to match up with the bottom feeders who get more through the corner quicker, but topside might just prevail.
Yeah, if it's any indication, the couple races that we had there, the Simpson 100 at Fayetteville and the Silver Bullet 55 we had over at Ontario, those were really fun races. You know, like you said, the high line would be a little faster, but neither of those tracks had any banking at all. And this has got some pretty good banking over there at Greenville. Should be a really fun race on Thursday night. You got anything to say about it there, Carlin, before we move on to the next one here?
No, I think you guys pretty much covered it. It's tough to tell with those short tracks, you know, what groove to run. You can go a little quicker using more track, but you can protect a lot more track. It all depends on your track position. If you're the one chasing, you're going to be using the track. If you're the one in front, you're going to be clipping that corner and making him work.
All right, and then after that race, our qualifying is going to go up for IndyCar. You got 24 hours to do it. You want to talk about the IndyCar race a little bit there, Carl?
Oh, yeah, the Hoosier Indy Classic. It's a 250-miler. For part-time drivers, this race is a primer for the Indy 500, and I suggest they try to get into it. For the point guys, this is this is a swing weekend. We're out of Daytona. There's a handful of us who feel we did great, a handful of us who feel we didn't do what we should have done, and now we go in this week and you start trying to, work off of what you build at Daytona. And Indianapolis is always, it is a pack race in the Indy cars, but tire wear comes into play, pit strategy comes into play a lot more, especially with that long pit row, the longest in the SCL, I believe. And this is the first race I think that we pivot and going to start to see who's going to emerge in the championship this season. If anybody's got anything for four-time defending champ Tip, we'll find out this week.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. What do you think, Derek Colio? Those IndyCar races are always fun.
Yeah, they're absolutely always fun, but something Carlin pointed out was tire wear, and not only is tire wear a huge factor, but just selecting the right compound is always a good idea to do, and just getting used to the car in general if you're not too used to it, because with the slightest bit of tire wear, it may feel like you've gotten quite a bit. You just got to know how to handle the car, and you got to have a little experience in the draft.
Yep, it's going to be a fun event. Obviously, anytime you get on the ovals, they're fun. Anything else to say there, Carlin, before we move on?
About what Colio was saying. I remember I've seen several rookies come into the IndyCar series over the past several seasons, and when they first started, they could not run the tires below, like a 6 or a 5 before they couldn't handle the car anymore. And so they would lose, lots of valuable track position, pit stops to the rest of us. But once they got the handle of it, you can run an Indy car down to a 4 or a 3 or whatever, just like you would a stock car. But your driving is what keeps you able to do it at the end there. You have to learn how to do that. And that's the more guys that get the handle on that before this race, those are the guys who are going to be in it in this race.
Yeah, our Hoosier IndyCar Classic is going to be a lot of fun. Our Class 2 race we got on Saturday night in the stock cars, Ray Best 150 at Dixie Union. What are your first impressions of Dixie Union, Carl?
I have not driven Dixie Union, but I probably did 10 or 12 laps there when you first opened it. And so I'm really starting completely out on the dark there. I mean, I'm sure I'll get some test time in this week. I know it's a wide open speedway. I tested it with the Indy cars, and with the width of that track, momentum, just like if you were at Daytona, but line is also a big part of it. And whoever gets that combination right. Plus the wild card, I have no idea. If I recall correctly, Dixie Union 8 tires when I tested it. So
yeah, they all do a pretty good job 8 tires.
The Dixie Union was particularly, if I recall correctly, it was a particularly vicious track on the tires, and so that's going to play a big part. And like you said, every time we talk about these races this season, we're going to talk about tires. We're going to say that, and we're all going to come to the final conclusion of we'll just have to wait and see. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens before that. In the Winston West race, we got the Checkers 100. That's going to be again in a public lobby, just like the karts are. That should be a good race. 100 laps at Greenville, kind of a shakedown for the guys that are going to race on Sunday for the big 200 lap Winston Cup race. So that's going to be another one. And, you know, we got the Greenville 200 on Sunday, the big Winston Cup event. First race out of Daytona. A lot of people say we get back some real racing after Daytona. Colio, what's your thoughts on coming to Greenville with the big stock cars?
Well, unlike the Alliance cars, late model, what have you, these cars are going to handle much, much different. Not only do they have a different aero package just for being a different generation of NASCAR, they also go a lot faster, so you're going to have to let off the gas a lot more, and you're going to have to work the car rather than just kind of following a line around the track.
Yep, it's definitely going to be fun. We're going to have, you know, qualifying up. It's going to be interesting to see what the qualifying times are. Some of these graded times, Tom.
Oh yeah, it's good. I mean, I know from I didn't have the Gran Turismo 5 era short track experience with you guys, and so I've had, you know, I do some work at them when I get a chance to test them. And really, the thing is, I think Motegi, and believe it or not, all the times we've raced at Willow Springs, I think help, because that's how you take those corners. You have to be smooth. You have to not eat your tires up too much, but you got to give it enough to where you're going quick, you know, to where you're pushing the car to where you're going faster than the average guy in the field so that you can gain. Because the differences here are so narrow that it's, you know, it's hard to make up time. But the one thing I noticed in the off-season test races is that what makes these races so good is, besides the fact that there are loads of pit strategy here and track position so important, that it's really going to become more like a 43-car real-life NASCAR race, in that when you get a caution, you need to check your pit windows, because you might want to stay out and keep the track position. And I think that, combined with the pit strategy, combined with the fact that, you know, if you're 3-4 seconds back in third place and the first two guys start racing each other, you will run them down in a second. And I think that's what's going to make that race in particular, I'm really looking forward to. I think it's going to be a real good show.
All these races are going to be fun. Any last thoughts here about the Greenville race we got going on, or the Dixie Union race there, Colio?
Not much, besides don't be afraid to put in a couple practice laps, especially switching from series to series.
Yep, we got some big events here: Greenville, Indianapolis, Dixie Union this week. First, we got Speed Week. Any last thoughts there, Carl?
No, I thought we had a great Speed Week. We only had a normal amount of trouble at any of the tracks. The G&D race was the only one that had several cautions. But really, I thought it was a great week. Every single season, it gets better since the first one we ran. It really does bring the excitement of the guys who come out. There are a lot of guys who are Daytona themed, so we're not going to see them again for a couple of months. And then there's the rest of us who grin and bear it through the toughest. We love racing Daytona, but it's hard. But let's get on with the season. You know, championships to be won and credits to be made.
Yep, should be awesome. All right, so for Carlin Hicks and Colio 123, I'm Johnny Benson, wrapping up another edition of Scl Weekly. Thanks for watching, checking it out. Make sure you check out the website at sundaycupleague.wix.com/SCRN for any up-to-date information, schedule changes and whatnot. But as we roll on here, should be a great week and a great weekend here in the SCL, and we'll see you next week.